All right, welcome back everybody. This will be episode 2 of our turbo kit build for our 91 Camaro with a 5.3 LS engine in it, fueled by a Holley Sniper. We're doing an S400 Turbo that we got mounted in the last episode. In this episode, I got a bunch of new parts that showed up, and I'm going to do some more fab work, getting our wastegate plumbed and hopefully installed. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'm going to switch the camera over, show you all these new parts that we got, and then we're going to dive in and get to work. All right, for starters here from Motion Raceworks, this oil filter housing, this will be where our feed line will attach to our engine. Yeah, LS Turbo oil feed, got that from Motion. Nice unit. I believe it is O-ringed, so you don't have to worry about gaskets or seals or using RTV or anything like that. Likewise, this is a turbo drain for our S400. I haven't test fit it yet, but I'm fairly certain this is the correct one. They make a couple different models for bolt pattern and all that, but got these from Motion. Nice billet CNC. This is O-ringed as well. The oil drain flange. So these are the two pieces I got from Motion. Then we have from Summit Racing, we've got a big J-bend pipe. This is our 4-inch mandrel bent builder pipe that we're going to use to build our exhaust from the turbo out of the side of the car. We got 2 weld-on O2 sensor bungs that will go on this pipe, of course. And then this is a -10 bulkhead that I bought, that I'm actually going to kind of customize this and install this in the front cover of my engine. So that'll be another episode. We'll do a build on, or we'll do an episode on that. And then the piece that I currently need for today's project is this is our 2-inch pipe that we're going to be using for our wastegate build. Obviously this is the builder pipe, so we can cut this and fit things as needed. So need this right now to get to work. And then the last thing we got down here is a new radiator for the car that's a little bit smaller since we're moving it out front. It needed to be a little bit narrower to fit in between these two brackets here and also the frame horns. So I got a little bit smaller unit, which should be plenty big for this application. It'll still fit our electric fans, and you know, should be a nice unit, but we'll open that up a little bit later. Alright, so here's our main game plan here. We've got our pipe coming off the collector going up to our T6 flange. Our wastegate here, I'm going to try and put it right about here. So the outlet of the wastegate is going to be about flush with the outlet of the turbo. And then our pipe will go straight down, and there'll be a little bit of a bend to it. So it'll go straight down right here. And the way we're going to mount this is not really to tee it in, but try and flare it across. So we'll make our cut kind of over here on this bend a little bit of this 2-inch pipe. Because the idea that we're going for is we want those exhaust gases to flow somewhat nicely. And obviously the flow is already turning up, and it'll have to come up even more, but we don't want to tee into it. So them gases will come right up, and they'll come right about here to our wastegate. And what we're probably going to do is we're just going to run a pipe straight up and straight out the hood, kind of like in this vicinity, which I think will be kind of cool. We'll have a probably somewhere right in here, put a little hole in the hood and get another flange, little bezel just like we have on the side over here. So our wastegate will exit up and out, and then the rest of our exhaust will go out the side. So we'll take this all apart, and once we get it all tore apart, make our cuts, tack weld it, test fit it. It's going to be a little bit time consuming, but get her welded up and get it put back on. Alright, so the way that I'm going to do this is essentially we're kind of working off of a 45. So if you can kind of picture, you know, here's our flange coming off the exhaust. Our T6 flange is up here, and then we've got a pipe that's kind of doing this. It does have, this is actually more straight here, and the radius is down here, and we're going to be grabbing on in this vicinity here. So this is roughly 45 degrees. So when we do our pipe, instead of doing like a 45 up here, I want to kind of start my cut down here in this bend, which will give a little bit more surface area from here to here. So what I'm going to do is kind of line that up as closely as I can. And right about in there is going to be about where I want it. So we can make a mark here. And that'll kind of give us our 45. And then if I line this up, kind of continue that line, and it'll end up somewhere right down in here, and continue that one up a little bit. So you can see how much more material we're going to gain. Now the only thing that's tricky about this is we're not centered on the pipe coming off of the manifold, so we're actually going to need a little bit less material on this side. Actually be opposite of that. We're actually going to need a little bit more material over here so that you kind of make the roundness of that pipe that we're going for needs to be like somewhere into here. There are definitely tools that will help with that, but if you kind of get the flow of what I'm saying, if this is right there and we want to be off to the side, you can kind of see just how much more material would have to be left. So we need to do a cut 45 this way and almost diagonal a little bit this way, which is going to be really interesting to do. So I'm going to finish marking that up and then go ahead and make a cut as a rough draft, and then we'll have to do some grinding on it to get her to fit good, but I think it should work. Alright, so after a little bit of fab work, let's take a look at what we got here. You can see I kind of got it tacked in place for right now. And then I put a little bend in it because what we're kind of combating with is when we got obviously we got this pulley right here and the wastegate's going to sit right on top of that. So I'm trying to find an equal area for it to stay away from this plastic pulley for heat. Also stay a little bit away from the turbo. I really wanted it more to the left, like over here, but to do that, to grab onto that pipe on the side was going to be pretty extreme, and it took a lot of fit and finesse to get it where it's at. So I took a couple pieces of the J-bend of the pipe that I bought and made a couple cuts and then kind of flipped them around so the pipe comes up, jogs over, so my lower hose will still have plenty of clearance through here. And so it essentially just takes it from center here and moves it center over about an inch, which will set it right about in here, and it should be pretty good. So I got it tacked up right now. You know, I guess I can set this on here to give you an idea. So we're gonna be right about in that neighborhood. And again, it was kind of nice because it moves this over, gets it away from the hot side of the turbo, which is here a little bit. This will be pitched up like that a little bit more. See, we're pretty close right in here. Either way, I got to get this ground flush for that pipe to come up. And then also, it's really hard to gauge the pipe this way because like the car is tilted the way it's sitting. Straight up and down based off the frame of the car is like here, but the engine sits this way. So to make that pipe like fit and look parallel to things is really kind of difficult actually, because there's not a lot of straight edges to go off of. But I'm just gonna keep finessing the pieces until I get it the way that I like it, and then we're gonna weld it up and show you the finished product. Well guys, that's it. I actually got the pulled the downpipe off, opened up the hole in it, and then welded the piping coming up all the way around to the wastegate. As you can see, it actually turned out pretty good. I think we decided the name of this car is going to be Rough Draft because A, it's never done, and B, most of the stuff I'm doing is probably going to have to be redone at some point, just because it's kind of crudely mocked up and put together. But I'm okay with it as for now, because obviously it'll be a good test run to see what works and what doesn't. Surely at some point some things are going to need to be changed, but definitely an ongoing R&D sort of thing. But as you can see, we should have nice flow coming out of that without potentially creating any vacuum, and it's not teed off, so it should kind of naturally flow. The exhaust pressures and gases coming through there. It should allow this wastegate to function. It is a 50mm wastegate, which could create a problem. That's a lot of wastegate for this turbo, but it is a single kit, so I'm hoping it'll work, especially with my plan to run lower boost. But as you can see, I think it turned out pretty good. And then I went ahead and got my hood stack set up. I think, as I said, I talked about running that wastegate outlet right over into the downpipe, but I really don't want to do that just because, you know, then there'll be a connection from here over to this pipe. So the distances between here, you know, when things heat up and they flex and they move, it could create some fitment issues. Or you put it together, run the car once, and then take it apart and things spring out of place or something. So, plus hood stacks are cool, and I already put the hole in the hood, so let's check that out real quick. Gotta get my prop rod. There it is. I am going to trim this up a little bit. It's still loosely fit in there, but probably knock this down to where it sticks out about like a ½ inch or so. Kind of clean it up a little bit, but and then I'm going to see if I can find a bezel to go around that to match this one on the side. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. I'm going to try and do kind of like a mini series on the rest of this build. I got the actual downpipe coming off the turbo for the side exit. I'm going to weld in 2 bungs for that, for the sensor for the sniper, and then I've got an aftermarket one that runs a gauge in the car, so we'll have 2 of those. I got the bungs I showed earlier, and then got cold side piping to do. Got to mount the intercooler. Got the new radiator that needs to be mounted up front, along with the heat exchanger for the water to air intercooler setup. So still plenty of work, and I'm going to try and roll out more episodes, kind of shorter episodes of step by step, to try and pass on as much information as I can to you guys that are watching. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Be sure and subscribe, and yeah, dadgummit, stay good. We'll see you later.